Two in the federal trial of a former Louisville police officer who fired into Breonna Taylor's apartment the night she was killed. Brett Henerson is in court this week for violating the civil rights of Taylor and several others during that botched 2020 raid. Jury selection is now in its second day, and this federal trial centers around two charges of deprivation of rights, one for unreasonable seizure, the other for deprivation of liberty without due process. Close to 50 potential jurors were brought in for questioning yesterday as the prosecution and defense look to narrow that number down to 16. During this process, the goal is to try and create an unbiased jury by asking a series of questions to weed out those who may know a lot about the case. Once we get to 16 jurors, the trial can begin. Now, Henerson is one of four former LMPD officers facing federal charges. Kelly Goodlett previously pleaded guilty to helping falsify the search warrant. Joshua Janes and Kyle Meany were charged with conspiring to violate Taylor's civil rights. The Associated Press reported those two are set to be tried together next year. Well, today will be the preliminary focused on finalizing the jurors for this trial, but if by chance that is finished and early enough, we could get into opening statements and hear exactly how prosecutors plan to lay out that evidence. We'll be there all afternoon as jury selection continues. No cameras allowed in the courtroom. If there is movement in this case, we'll keep you updated on air and online at WHAS11.com. The trial date for the Delphi murder suspect, Richard Allen, has been moved to next October, nearly 9 months later than anticipated. He's accused in the murders of Libby German and Abby Williams back in 2017, and this morning his former defense attorneys Brad Rossi and Andrew Baldwin were back at his side, saying they plan to represent him pro bono, even though he already has new representation. Well, the judge was not in agreement with that, but did allow to push that trial date to ensure his current defense team has enough time to go through discovery. The Delphi murder trial is set for October 15th next year. The families and victims of survivors of the Old National Bank mass shooting are planning to take legal action against the maker of the rifle the gunman used. Our Alex Dieterer spoke with an attorney about the possible claims we could see against Texas manufacturer Radical Firearms.
April 10th, 2023.
Meaning that there's an active shooter inside the building.
5 people dead and 8 others injured. Now, more than 6 months later, surviving victims and families of the Old National Bank mass shooting are planning to file a lawsuit against the Texas-based manufacturer that made the AR-15 rifle used that day.
We want to hold these manufacturers responsible for how they market their products, and we want to find a way to keep these weapons out of the hands of people who are in dark days mentally. And prevent these mass shootings from happening.
Louisville attorney Tad Thomas told WHAS11 he was hired by the wife of Jim Tutt and 5 others who were hurt in the downtown shooting.
They all want to make sure that weapons of mass destruction are not in the hands of people that are mentally unable to handle them.
Thomas says the lawsuit is at a halt until the LMPD investigation findings are released.
Because we think that will shed a lot of light onto how this tragedy occurred.
But at the end of the day, Thomas hopes for justice for these families and survivors.
We hope that this process that we go through in litigation will eventually be cathartic, and it's the families are standing up for their loved ones.
Alex Dieterer, WHAS11 on your side.
Attorney Ted Thomas also notes once the lawsuit is filed, it's likely to be a long process, which could result in a trial. He's hoping to file that by the end of the year. Well, this afternoon, all employees at the Kentucky truck plant are back at work following about 2 weeks of striking, while the United Auto Workers Union and Ford hashed out that tentative new deal. ABC's Rena Roy has the latest.
The United Auto Workers strike coming to an end in what the union is calling a big win.
We're officially suspending our stand-up strike against each of the big three.
UAW officials coming to tentative deals with the so-called big three automakers, Ford, Chrysler owner Stellantis, and General Motors, which was the final holdout.
We are all feeling very optimistic because we looked at what Ford came out with, what Stellantis is being told that they're supposed to get.
The strike lasted 6 weeks, and it was the first time in history the union walked off the job at all three. Now, the auto workers getting a 25% wage increase over the next 4.5 years, 11% immediately coming once the deal is signed, a cost of living adjustment, and boosts to retirement income, including 401k contributions.
We need this wage increase. Christmas, Thanksgiving, the New Year. That'll help.
President Biden commending the agreements, saying they benefit both sides.
These record agreements reward auto workers who gave up much to keep the industry working and going during the financial crisis more than a decade ago. These agreements ensure the iconic Big Three can still lead the world in quality and innovation.
Anderson Economic Group estimates the strike cost the industry $9.3 billion. And while it appears to be over, the workers still need to vote to ratify the deals. That could take a few weeks. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Well, we are just 1 week away from Election Day and just days from early voting in Kentucky. Republican Secretary of State Michael Adams, who's also running for re-election, says it's a win for everyone. He said people who vote early will have shorter waits, but it also means people who vote on Election Day will also be in shorter lines. Adams is hoping for a good turnout for this election.
Right now, we're expecting about 40% of voters to vote in this election over all the different methods of voting. It might be a little higher, might be a little lower. It's hard to say at this point. It's too early. But we think about 15% of the voters in November will vote early.
And there are 10 locations to vote early in Jefferson County, Thursday through Saturday. You can vote between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. And TARC will be offering free rides next Tuesday to help you get to the polls. Rides will be during normal service hours and on those regular routes. TARC 3 rides will also be free for paratransit customers. We have all of this information listed for you online, from the specific early in-person voting locations to those TARC routes. There's also a deep dive into some of Kentucky's key races, from governor to Secretary of State. Just head to WHAS11.com, click that voter guide on our homepage. The city of Jeffersonville celebrating an $800 million investment coming to the city. Canadian Solar is establishing a solar cell manufacturing plant at the River Ridge Commerce Center. The solar cells produced here will be used at an assembly plant in Texas. And Jeffersonville's Mayor Mike Moore said the project is expected to create about 1,200 jobs with an average pay of more than $24 an hour.
This isn't just another run-of-the-mill company coming to town. This is big, and it's solar. So, as the country and as the world tries to look for alternative forms of energy, Jeffersonville, Indiana is going to be the home of a huge solar factory, manufacturing plant.
Mayor Moore said the project will also bring in enough money to hire more police officers, work on infrastructure projects, and help fund schools. Production at the facility is expected to start by the end of 2025.